Conference. So next we have something very special for you. Oregon's cowboy poet, Tom Swearingen, tells stories of the people and land of the American West through original cowboy poetry inspired by his own experiences and observations from the saddle. The 2022 and 2019 International Western Music Association Male Poet of the Year, Tom brings his stories to life with rhythm and rhyme and a storytelling style that makes him a popular performer not only at cowboy gatherings and horse camps, but at libraries, historical centers, and wherever else you find folks who appreciate the cultural heritage of the West. Please help me welcome Tom Swearingen.
Thank you. By way of further introduction, I'm a rootin' tootin' wordsmith, a bronco twister of tall tale, a creator of compositions on the wily Western Trail, wranglin' danglin' participles, culling near rhymes from my word, replacing with truer pairings so as to build a stronger herd. I'm a range-writing cowboy bard, mending imperfect tenses, penning grammatical structures to stimulate the senses. I put order to arrangements of consonants and vowels, accentuating syllables to the rhythm of my rowels. I build my loops of metered rope, toss my twine of nouns and verbs, some sonorous recitations, others lighter, witty blurbs. So rhyme 'em cowboy, letter buck. I'm setting poems to flying. I hope you enjoy, but if you don't, at least by gosh, I'm trying. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a real honor for me to be here tonight. It really is. So proud to have been asked to come and share a few of my poems. And particularly, I'm going to share some poems that pay tribute to this great state or have been inspired by my experiences horseback. I'll start with just a few lines for Oregon from a grateful native son. I have roamed all corners of this state at lope or trot or walking gait from vantage point of horse's back, on vast wide range and single track. Smelled the air of sage-scent mesas, followed ruts and ancient traces of nomads, beasts, and those who came to stake their claim and bring my name. Watched desert devils spin and dance, their dust trails haze the far expanse and fade and lift to leave behind my outlook clear with inspired mind. I've cut the tracks of wild Mustang bands, packed deep and cool at timber stands. I spent enough time around city walls to know I prefer a coyote's calls. Circled herds on high grazed grasses, trailed them down steep switchback passes. Spent many nights with stars my lamp, bedded in a remote camp. Picked way across rivers snaking down from mountain range and hilltop crown. Seen life they bring to valley floor and then fresh the salt at ocean shore. I've come to love this diverse land where creative fires can be fanned. 6 decades here have made it clear I'm glad my roots were planted here. Oregon is a sacred ground where coiled up thoughts can be unwound and strung in lines to then be sung with passionate voice and angel's tongue. So now my plan's for me to stay until my final earthly day. And if that works out, then I'll be blessed to ride my days out in the West, to Oregon. So I have had the great pleasure of covering a lot of miles horseback on this state in Oregon. And I want to take you to the far southeast corner of Oregon. Anybody ever been to Diamond, Oregon? Yeah. You know, you drive into Diamond, Oregon, at least last time I was there, you drive into Diamond, Oregon, it says population 5. And I asked that question once and somebody in the audience yelled, "Yeah, I used to live there." And I don't know if that means that the sign used to say 6 or they just haven't changed it to 4, but not a lot of people in Diamond, Oregon, but there are a lot of cattle. And my wife and I have had an opportunity to help a ranch couple friends of ours that run cattle out of Diamond. Let me take you there on a little roundup, helping them round up some stray pairs on a grazing lease that was 4 canyons wide, 25 miles long, right up to the Steens Mountain Wilderness area. We're working out a cow camp up at Cucamonga Creek on a late summer gather for now going on a week. My wife and I are helping a friend named Tim O'Crowley. He and his wife Susan run the cattle in this valley. Each day some different work to do, maybe ailing cows to tend, of course rounding up the strays, and there's a fence or two to mend. Diamond Valley lies before us on spectacular display, a big old slice of heaven on a bright September day. Southeast Oregon, high desert, where the cougars still run free among the sage and paintbrush and the quaking aspen tree. Looking southward up the canyon, miles of rim rock wall to our right. To our left, wind-swept mesas, not another soul in sight. Steens Mountain in near distance, just flat, takes our breath away. The beauty on the summer range makes our work feel more like play. More than once, I've heard Tim share a thought that I too know is true. Cowboying's a whole lot easier when it comes with a great view. Thank you. And thank you very much. And don't we have some great views in this state? You know, every corner and everything in between. I have a friend who manages a horse ranch in Central Oregon. And a while back, he posted on the internet, his Facebook page, a close-up of his hand. That's all it was, just his hand. And it was just a ghastly-looking rope burn running right down the middle of his hand. And his Facebook post said, "Note to self, 3 dallies around an oak tree ain't near enough to stop a runaway hoss. Next time I'll be in a saddle when I toss my twine." And I thought, that should be a poem. So I wrote it. Oh, Teddy Frank of the Morrow Ranch was out mending fence alone when coming to his attention was a charging wild-eyed roan. Closing fast, that big spook-crazed mare was running for all she's worth. Her nostrils flared, her ears pinned flat, a cyclone of hooves and earth. Well, the mere sight of that hell-bent hoss would leave most men quite rattled, especially if, like Teddy was, surprised, on foot, unsaddled. Yeah, most men would duck, dive, or run, but not Teddy, no siree. He conjured himself up a plan. He'd not let that wild mare flee. Now, Teddy Recall was all alone. Most people would say outmanned, but not those who know Teddy Frank, because he is one tough hand. Surveying the situation, he figures his only hope would be one chance when she ran by. He'd collect her with his rope. He'd toss a big old floating loop that would sail out of her ears. She'd know right quick she was bested, let go her primal fears. Oh, she'd settle down real sudden-like. They'd become the best of friends. But that's not how the story goes. No, that's not how the story ends, because the little wrinkle in Teddy's plan for that loose mare was the absence of a saddle. You can't just dally in midair. But now that mare's upon him in a flash, she'd be on by, so now or never he figured, and he let his catch twine fly. And then his plan adjusted some, because that horse sped up her run, and that's when Teddy realized his battle was just begun. With no horn wraps to slow her down, he run with her best he could. All the time he's thinking, another hand'd sure be good. Oh, that mare was building up some steam. They were covering lots of ground. Old Teddy had his hands full, but took time to look around, and he spots a lone white oak approaching. Figures that'll slow her down. So seizing opportunity, he runs some dallies around. Well, now I've caught her, Teddy thought, with 3 dallies around that oak. Breathed a big old sigh of relief, and detects a whiff of smoke. Was an odor some familiar, although not that of burning tree, and that's when Teddy realized, well, that burning smell is me. 3 dallies around an oak tree, Teddy says he has now learned, ain't near enough to stop a horse, which is why his hand's now burned. But rather than feeling defeated, Teddy takes it all in stride. He says, oh, it's just skin, a jump start on callousing up my hide. But next time, Teddy says, if needing to stop a runaway hoss, next time I'll be in the saddle, and then we'll see who's boss. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I am born and raised in Oregon, spent my whole life here. That might not have been. My mom was born and raised on a farm in north central Nebraska. And a few years back, my mom gave me some things that belonged to my grandfather, Elmer Blake. And included in that was the farm auction flyer announcing the sale of Elmer Blake's farm. And it listed everything that was for sale. And believe me, folks, when I tell you that everything was for sale. Based on some of the content of that farm auction ad, some things that I have that my grandfather gave me, and I knew my grandfather, I will leave you with this. Team geldings 4 and 6, one gray, one black as coal. Team roan mares aged 5 and 6, one comes with a foal. Smooth-mouthed gelding saddle horse, bay mare and bay roan colt, a sampling of the horses Elmer Blake listed to be sold. 38 head of stock in all listed in detail. As I am moving to Oregon, I will sell at public sale. Calves, yearling steers, and heifers, a registered Hereford bull, a dozen good milk cows, 2 fresh, another to soon pull. Farm machinery, household goods, chickens in there, feed, everything a family might ever want or need. Well, noon, that notice said, sale get underway, and it even noted lunch on site by Louie's Cafe. 2,500 bushels or more of oats, barley, and corn. 16 dozen pullets and hens, Plymouth Rock and White Leghorn. 100 ton of barley hay, red fodder, and sorghum cane. Back there, black amber's the name they gave that grain. Sulky, plow, lister, harrow, disc, and binder. In-gate seeder, 12-foot rake, a side hitch, sweep, and grinder. Plus other machinery listed used to work the land, horse-drawn gear, every piece. Means Grandpa was a hand. New 3-burner oil stove to table from the kitchen with 6 chairs, plus the high chair they used to put my mom in. Rocker, range, radio, dresser, sink, beds, dishes, milk pails, churn, everything you'd think. Well, even on that list for sale was Grandpa's livestock brand. There's something I'd love to have seen or better have in hand. I'd keep it with the arrowheads he gathered on their land, left there by the Ponca, the Pawnee, and a Sioux Lakota band. Speaking of keepsakes, heirlooms from the day, I've got Grandpa's fiddle and bow. I never heard him play. What I have heard is a treasure that'll never go away, stories of my heritage and roots, what paved our family's way. Mom telling of prairie rattlers sunning on the path and huddling in the cellar while tornadoes leveled wrath. The hard work of farming and keeping up with chores and a month of Sundays sometimes between trips to the stores. See, my roots were dug from Nebraska soil up north by the Dakota line. It's where my mom and aunt and uncles were born and raised until the time Grandpa decided to sell the farm and move the brood out west, take a shipyard job because the war was on. And for that, I am blessed. Because how else would my mom have ever met my dad? Fell in love, married, had a son they had. I am truly blessed that Grandpa sold the spread and replanted our roots in Oregon, where we would grow instead. Thank you. Thank you. No, come on. I want to take 40 more seconds. I want to tell you the rest of that story. You'll appreciate this. My grandfather's intention was to go back to Nebraska when the war was over and farm Nebraska again. They settled in Canby, Oregon, just up the valley here. And they weren't here too long before my grandma said, well, Elmer, you can go back to Nebraska, but you're going alone. I've discovered 4 seasons, fertile ground. I have discovered Oregon. Thank you to all of you who help people discover Oregon. Thank you very, very much.
Wow, just a master wordsmith. How about some more appreciation for our friend Tom? Tom, you've really proved that life is better in rhythm and rhyme, and we should speak this way all the time. Tom Swearingen, I hope we meet again. Somebody cut my mic. Yikes. I think we will not let me do that again. Thank you, Tom, and I'm so glad that your family stayed in Oregon. That was beautiful. Thank you. You guys like to clap. Why did you clap again? Just do it. How's dinner? Everyone's happy?